Welcome and thank you for attending this Moorpark College webinar. Before we begin, a few disclaimers. First and foremost, this webinar is being recorded for archival purposes. This webinar has also been configured to ensure a safe and positive experience. Therefore, disruptive, threatening, inappropriate, and all other Zoom bombing related behaviors will not be tolerated. Closed captioning is available by clicking the CC button in your Zoom toolbar. You may submit written questions to the panelists anytime during the presentation using the Q&A button in the Zoom toolbar or via the chat box.
Well, good morning. My name is Allison Barton, and I'm the health educator here at Moorpark College Student Health Center. I am delighted this morning to welcome Kimberly Karinke to speak to us on financial health. Kim has been a financial aid professional at the Moorpark College, First, she holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, BSBA, and describes herself as a champion of financial wellness for all students. And I think you'll find that that is absolutely true as she takes us through this wonderful presentation on financial wellness. So with that, take it away, Kim.
Thank you, Allison. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So happy you're here to explore budget and credit with me. I guess my first question for you is, do you think there's anything you can gain from increasing your knowledge of budget and credit? And ask yourself, how comfortable are you discussing money? And then the next thing is, have you ever heard of the term financial fragility? Next slide, please. In a recent survey, college students were asked, could you come up with $400 in the event of a financial emergency during the school year? About 56.5% of those students responded very unlikely or unlikely. And that's exactly what financial fragility means. It's the inability to come up with an emergency expense in a short time period. Next slide, please. Are you concerned? Nearly 30% of middle income households are financially fragile. Almost 40% of those without a college degree are financially fragile, compared to only 23% of those who have at least a bachelor's degree. And 42% of working age women are financially fragile, compared to only 29% of men. A similar fraction of individuals across all ages are financially fragile. Are you becoming more interested in increasing your knowledge of budget and credit than you were just a few minutes ago? If there's still some doubters in the room, please stick with us. Next slide, please.
Kim, we have a couple of comments. One, especially as I grew up in a financially fragile household, so people are relating already.
Thank you. If you're feeling financially stressed, especially pre-COVID-19, an Ohio State survey of student financial wellness, you weren't alone, 7 out of 10 respondents also felt the same way. They were also feeling stressed about their finances. In a new survey, it's risen. Nearly 9 in 10, or 88% of Americans now say that with the COVID-19 crisis, it's causing stress on their personal finances. And more than half say that they're worried about not having enough saved, while almost half are worried about their ability to pay bills. The main purpose of this workshop is to provide practical tips and techniques for reducing both your financial fragility and your stress so that you can focus on your college studies and get the most out of your college. Next slide, please. Here's the topics we're going to talk about. What's your money attitude? What's a need versus a want? Developing a spending plan, the advantages and disadvantages of credit, and how to be a convenience user. The psychology of money is part of behavioral economics. Behavioral economics is about understanding how Real people behave in real world situations. Also like to remind you that emotions play an important role in people's decision making, and behavioral economics incorporates this important fact of life into its decision theory. Emotions are assumed to be unimportant for the decision making in the conventional economic model. People don't make decisions in isolation from society, at a more micro level, in isolation from family and friends. They don't behave as though they are operating in a hermetically sealed room. They are influenced by what their friends and family think and do, and what those outside their group do. People are affected by social norms, culture, religion. Their, their decisions can also be significantly influenced by those with whom they identify. Their level of happiness is impacted by their desire to fit in. Current decisions are also influenced by past decisions. By a show of hands, how many of you would agree with these comments? Let's see if I can change my view so I can see if you have your hands shown. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to talk about now what's your money attitude. So if you have some scratch paper, or if you want to pull up your notepad on your computer, let's go through these questions. And there's no right or wrong answers. Just fill out whatever comes to your head first. And this is a little survey called What's Your Money Attitude? So the first one is money is blank. I'll give you a few seconds to fill that out, and then I'll move on to the next one. You can also follow these along yourself if I'm going too slow or too fast for you. If you had $100, I would blank. I think people with lots of money blank. I think people who don't have much money blank. When I retire, I want to have blank. When I have money, I blank. I'd have to say spend it, personally. When I don't have money, I blank. And when I want or need money, I blank. Let's give you a couple more seconds to finish that off. And the answers just reveal your money attitude. It's not right or it's wrong. It can be influenced by emotions. They drive our decisions. It's important to understand how you individually feel about money, so you consider if your current attitude is helping or hindering your money management. Next, I'd like you to think about, do you struggle with figuring out financial priorities? What to pay first, whether to purchase an item or to save? Many of us wrestle with constant questions of needs and wants. Next slide, please. So here's the difference between needs and wants. A need is essential for survival, and a want is extras that add to the enjoyment of life. It's all about choice. What are you willing to give up to get what you want? How do you decide what's important? For example, you may decide it's important to be able to enjoy a cable subscription. And what are you willing to make? Maybe make your own coffee every day instead of going to Starbucks so that you can afford the cable bill each month. It's what are you willing to trade off for another thing? Sometimes you have to trade things to get to the wants. Next slide, please. What are your financial goals? So these are different financial goals, such as an emergency fund or paying down your debt, a major purchase, living below your income, maybe saving up to travel, or start your own business. Some goals may be short-term, others might be mid-term, and some are long-term. They all have one thing in common, and you can use what's called the SMART model. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, to get to your goals. Next slide, please. So SMART goals, it's an acronym. The S stands for specific. Exactly what do you want to achieve? The M is measurable. Establish benchmarks to measure your success. The A stands for attainable. Break your goal into small, attainable steps so that you can achieve it. The R is for relevant. Make certain you're motivated. And the T stands for time bound, setting a specific deadline. So I'll use myself as an example. I wanted to set up an emergency fund. I had never had one before. So the first thing I did was I decided, how much I needed to save to have that emergency fund. There's different recommendations out there. Sometimes it's 2 months worth of what your bills are. Others feel it's 6 months worth in case you lost your job, that you would be able to survive for 6 months. So I figured out, exactly what I wanted to have in my emergency fund. And then I made it measurable. I set a time frame, about 9 months to get to that goal, and how much I broke it down into small pieces, the attainable part, how much I would need to save each month to reach that goal. To keep myself motivated, I shared it with someone who would keep me on track and remind me and ask me how I was doing with my goal. And that kept me accountable. And the specific deadline was the time frame, the 9 months in the future when I reached that goal. So this is just a way that you could set a goal, and it's a SMART, hence the acronym, way of making sure that you can obtain it. Hopefully you've heard of this before. Hopefully you don't feel like budgets are too boring or constraining. Next slide, please. Some people do think budgeting.
Kim, we have a.
Is there a question?
Kim, we do have a question. Yes. Does the financial aid department at Moorpark College, does your staff help students with setting SMART goals?
That's not normally, we do presentations like this one, but it's certainly not something that they do on a daily basis. Mostly we give presentations, and we do have software available on our website called, well, now I can't think of the name, Cash Course, which would help you with budgeting. Or we can suggest to you different, like there's an app on your phone called Mint that you could use for budgeting. But it's not, if you mean, do they sit down with students and talk about their budget? Sure, if the student would bring it up. I'm just not sure how often that happens. Mostly we're usually talking about FAFSA and what awards and the timing of awards and whether a student is making satisfactory academic progress, stuff like that. Hopefully that answers your question. So budgeting is boring. Most people don't explain, don't enjoy budgeting for many of the reasons you can think of. It's just not that fascinating or thrilling. But really what it is, it's a spending plan. It lets you consider where you need to spend money, like fixed expenses, where you should spend money, periodic expenses, and where you could spend money, flexible expenses. Next slide, please. So to do a spending plan, there's 3 steps. First, you identify and list the sources of income. You identify and list monthly expenses, and you determine how much money you have left at the end of the month. And you might have to revise the plan if you don't have enough money at the end of the month to cover your expenses. Next slide, please. There's a variety of tools online to help you with budgeting. The next thing to consider is, what are your sources of income? These are various sources where you can get income. There's a job or an internship. Hopefully, you know, if you know about financial aid, you know about federal work study. It's a type of award you can receive through the FAFSA where you would have a job on campus. There's internships through our Career Transfer Center. Some parents do tuition reimbursement plans through their employer. Another source of income for you might be your yearly tax refund, if you get one. Or if you apply for financial aid, you could possibly get grants, or you could apply for scholarships. Have you ever experienced more month than the money, meaning that your money ran out before the month did? So I'll give you a couple of minutes and you could grab a piece of scratch paper or pull up your notepad and think about 3 opportunities to increase your income. And then if you think of any that aren't listed here, if you could just put them in the chat and we'll read them out loud. Next slide, please. Okay, time to compare your list to some other ideas for increasing income. Did anyone come up with these? You could do tutoring to earn some extra cash. There's even something called an app tester. Or maybe you could take on a temporary or seasonal job. These are opportunities to increase your income. Next slide, please. Now it's time to figure out where your money's going. There's different kinds of expenses. These are examples of periodic expenses. And periodic stands for they only happen once in a while. So in other words, you only have to pay for your books at the beginning of each semester, or your tuition and fees when it's time to enroll, or car registration is perhaps once a year, or car maintenance. Every time you change your oil is a certain number of miles, so probably only happens every 3 or 4 months. These are all things that happen periodically, and you do have to set aside money to be prepared for them. Next slide, please. Another type of expense. Was there a question?
Yes. The question is, have you seen more money insecurity since COVID in students' needs, household needs versus time for college?
Have we seen more? We've seen more emergency funds come through for students due to COVID, and we've accepted emergency grant applications where students are indicating that they've been affected by COVID, yes. So due to job loss or a downturn in hours, the income has decreased, definitely during COVID. This type of expense is called flexible expenses. So it's flexible because there's no set amount. You know, you might not spend the same amount on groceries each month. It can vary. And some of these things are really if you have money left after you pay for the periodic and the fixed expenses. So these are all examples of flexible expenses. Next slide, please. This is the final expense category when figuring out where your money has gone and doing a budget. It's called your fixed expenses. So these are the things that you probably pay first. Rent and mortgage, car payment, insurance. These are a bill that you have every month. Probably you're taking care of these before you're taking care of the other types of expenses. Were there any expenses on any of these lists that surprised anyone? I think a lot of people don't generally think of savings as an expense. But hopefully, if you've had money management courses before or some tips, or maybe from your family, you learned to put a set amount from your paycheck each month aside in savings, sometimes referred to paying yourself first. So that's how you can set up that emergency fund. And that's, if you have the savings, then that's how you can offset the financial fragility if, unexpected expense comes up.
Kim, we had one suggestion that somebody might need to pay for pets, pet care, pet food, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would also be an example if you have a responsibility for a pet of probably a fixed expense. You have that each month. It could also be a flexible expense because you might, once in a while have a vet bill or something like that. Good example. Okay, so it's time to shift gears. Now we've been talking about the money, and next we're going to talk about and budgeting. Next, we're going to talk about credit. Next slide, please. So here's the pros and cons of credit. We're going to list the advantages of credit and some disadvantages of credit for you to think about. So the pros, like if you're traveling, they say it's safer to have a credit card than carrying cash on yourself. Credit card could definitely be convenient in an emergency. It's convenient for shopping online. And the responsible use of credit builds a good credit history. But there's also disadvantages to credit. You might spend more than you would if you just had $20 in your pocket with a credit card. If you had $100 available on the credit card, might lead you to spend more than you really need to. You pay extra money for the use of borrowed money. So you pay interest on the credit. And the irresponsible use of credit can damage your credit score. Next slide, please. Credit report. How many of you know what's in your credit report? This shows you that it contains not only your personal information, but account information, collection records, public records such as bankruptcies, judgments, liens, and inquiries. There are 3 credit reporting agencies. You've probably heard of Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, who report your activity to FICO. FICO stands for Fair Isaacs Corporation. And FICO, in turn, reports your FICO score to lenders and other interested parties. It's important when you're looking for a job or trying to make a major purchase like a house or rent and lease. They may check your credit score. So it's important that you have a positive FICO score when you're trying to make significant purchases or find a job. Next slide, please. How long does negative information stay on your credit report? Well, if you have unpaid student loans, they stay on there forever. If you have to file for a bankruptcy, it can stay on there for 7 to 10 years. If you go into collections, people are collecting, it's 7 years plus 180 days. I believe that's like 6 months, so 7.5 years. If you've made late payments on a credit card, stays there for 7 years. If you've had a repossession, 7 years. And if someone does a hard inquiry on you, it's on there for 2 years. I don't know if you have thought about paying someone to repair your credit, but it's never a good idea to have to pay to have someone repair your credit. You can do that yourself. Next slide, please. It's very costly to pay someone to repair your credit, and you can fix your credit yourself. You're entitled to 3 free credit reports, one from each of the reporting agencies I mentioned, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, per year. And it's a good idea if you split those up. So every 4 months, you could ask a different agency for your free credit report. This also can not only allow you to view what's on there so that you're aware, but it helps you protect your identity, because if someone has stolen your identity and starts opening a bunch of accounts under your name, it would show on your credit report. You would be able to capture that. So the suggestion that we say is that you might want to check your credit report every 4 months. So maybe right after the holidays, and then again in July, which is not, I guess that's not 4 months from the holidays. So you need to pick like 4 things that you remember in the year. So maybe Easter, that's like the 4th month, right? And then 4 months after that would be when the fall semester starts. And then another 4 months after that would be near the holidays, Thanksgiving, maybe between Thanksgiving and Christmas, to go ahead and check your credit report.
Kim, we have a question.
Okay.
Is FICA forgiving stuff during COVID?
It's not FICO that would do that, but if you contact your individual creditors, say you make a late payment, most creditors have posted, I've noticed, right on their website where you're paying your bill in big red letters at the top, that if you're having difficulties because of COVID, to go ahead and reach out to them, that they're willing to work with you. So in most cases, you need to contact your individual creditors to make some kind of different payment arrangements, or to let them know that you are having problems during COVID making your payments. It's also, yes, it's also a great idea, like if you ever make a late payment, to immediately call up your creditor and just ask them if they will remove it. A lot of times they will. If you've been paying on time all along, and for whatever reason you forgot to mail your bill one month and you forgot to pay on time, most of the time they're very agreeable to removing something that just happened one time from your credit history. And if they're not, and they're the first person that you talk to doesn't assist you, be persistent. Ask for a supervisor. It's in your best interest to have it removed. So it's always worth the time invested for you to call and just ask them to remove the negative. Tell them it was just a one-time error and it won't happen again. And as they can see from your past history, you've been a good payer. And most of the time they're going to remove that negative from your account.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. There's several actions you can take if you need to repair your credit. And I'd like you to think about any proactive steps that you can take, such as reaching out and calling those creditors. Another idea is to be a convenience user of credit. Next slide, please. So for credit maintenance, pay your bills on time, notify your creditor if you can't meet the payments, Borrow only what you can afford to repay and understand each credit contract that you have. Promptly report any missing credit cards and notify the creditor if the statement is incorrect or not received. Only give out your credit card number over the phone when you initiate the call, and shred documents containing your account numbers. Next slide, please. So what now? You can access more money management tips, create a spending plan, and stay connected with us. So if you are interested, what we offer is 10 weeks of texts twice a week, like on Mondays and Wednesdays. One would be on credit and the other one would be on budgeting. And if you're interested in that, if you can put your email in the chat, we will send you a form where you can sign up for the free texting. It's just short tips telling you about free money management tools and topics and things that are available to you as a student so that you can explore more about budgeting and credit. I don't know if that's our last slide. Next slide, please. So it's not much how much money you have, it's how you manage it that counts. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to manage money, but budgeting is boring and managing credit sounds overwhelming. We're here and we want to connect with you. We want to provide you with more information on how to get a handle on your budget and credit and learn more so that you can concentrate on your studies and not be worried about money. Next slide, please. Okay, that must be the last slide. So I really appreciate your attention today, and I hope that you will explore more with us. I hope that you'll sign up for the texting and engage with us on financial wellness. And we do have a lot of tools available on the financial aid website at Moorpark College to assist you. Thank you.
And I put the various websites that you referred to during your presentation in the chat. There is a financial wellness handout that Michael just posted. And when we post this video on the Help Fair website, we'll also, maybe we could add the form that you just referenced for getting the texting tips. That's a great idea.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. And I really think that the texting is really helpful to students. You know, you can opt out at any time if you don't find that it's helpful, but I think it's really nice. I subscribe myself to, and I received a lot of information on all different kinds of topics that I was never aware of. There's a government website out there called Smart About Money, and they just send periodic text messages, and you know, it's up to you whether you explore the topic more if it interests you. But I really recommend it. It doesn't cost anything, and it's great to learn more about budget and credit and finances and money management.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any further questions for Kim this morning? It looks like we're good. You've answered everything perfectly, and we so appreciate your time this morning, Kim. Thank you so much. You got a comment. She was great. I agree. So thank you again for your time this morning, and just know that this will spread to other participants in its video form on the website. For attendees, if you could share with other people and come back to see us for some of our other presentations this afternoon, that would be great. And we'll hopefully everybody's going to use those great financial health tips to their advantage. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Take good care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.